our favorite gaming channel that nobody asked for and very few people have heard of as of this point. We're back. We're doing some more fun conversations with Windows 98. This is going to be the last episode that he's going to be in for a little bit, and we're going to hopefully have another guest coming on next week to have some new fun and insightful conversations. Windows, you want to say hello?
Hello, hi. I'm here because I've been talking about Adventure Time. I did it on Monday. I did it on Wednesday, and if you haven't heard either of those, go watch them first. Because today we're going to be talking about a plot, and because we like plot. I like cartoons. Beef Boss likes cartoons, and today for the third time we're going to be talking about cartoons.
Yeah. We're gonna try not to be super spoiler heavy, but just it goes without saying. There's gonna maybe be some spoilers, so just be advised.
If there was an episode that you were gonna not watch because you were worried about things being spoiled, it would be this one. The other two, we don't have any spoiler content, and I'm just gonna give the big discrepancy here that there's probably going to be at some point a spoiler warning, and we will give you one before we say anything.
Yeah. But yeah, we're talking about plot. I think I'll probably go ahead and kick it off just because you started with Adventure Time last time. In terms of plot, though, these two shows do have a commonality in the sense that, and this is less so with Adventure Time, but the first 3 seasons of regular show, there just is no consistent plot. There's a lot of character development, but there's not really any kind of story-driven plot. And that sort of shifts a little bit. Getting into season 4, that's kind of when we get into the Mordecai love arc, which is, by and large, considered by most people the lowest point of the series. Because as it turns out,
true.
Yeah, as it turns out, watching a bird man simp over a bird woman and a cloud woman is not good television. As a simp myself, I can attest, not a great lifestyle, not the move.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any thoughts on the simp lifestyle, Windows?
Don't be a simp. I mean, there's a reason it became an insult, right?
Yeah.
Some people have this idea where they wear it as a badge of pride, but at the end of the day, it leaves you very unfulfilled, and it's not the way to go. You want to be in a good, healthy relationship. So for people trying to get into relationships, or if my sister is listening to this, you better not get into a relationship because I will kill them. Just make sure that it's a good one.
Yeah. And on the topic of relationships, kind of going into the regular show plot, again, 4 and 5 are pretty much the let's make fun of Mordecai while he's pathetic arc. And then going into season 6 is kind of where we first, or no, I guess season 6 is still Mordecai relationship-y, but in season 6 we sort of, this is where we start to see the momentum building for the Rigby character development, which 10 out of 10, am a Rigby stan. I stan Rigby so hard. But anyways, this is where we kind of see the character development with Rigby really take shape. And this is kind of complemented by the character of Eileen, who is introduced to us pretty early on, I think season 2 or 3. But when Eileen is introduced to us, it's made very clear by Rigby that there's not really an interest, and that it's kind of she's interested in him, he's not into her almost at all. And that's kind of where things start off. And as Mordecai is kind of the focus of the early seasons, you don't really see a lot of Rigby's stuff going on, but sort of in the background, you can kind of see him cozying up to Eileen a little bit, and there's definitely some cute moments.
In the same way that I feel, not to cut you off here, but I feel it's an important note to be made. In the same way that for the majority of Adventure Time, Finn is, basically the focus, right? And it's his interactions with people that are really monitored. Jake still in the background has his relationship with Lady Rainicorn that's going on.
Exactly.
I feel that's a very decent parallel to what's happening Imagine if Jake and Lady Rainicorn weren't together and they were working on it in the background during the events of Adventure Time. That would be what's going on with Mordecai and Rigby in a sense, right?
Yeah. And then,
am I like, yeah?
Well, yeah, just because like what I was saying with Rigby and Eileen, it really is a slow burn in terms of their relationship. Like, you get to see them sort of working up to it, and then sort of as season 6 is going on, and we see Mordecai being a simp, like the viewer, you start to notice like Rigby and Eileen get really, really comfortable around each other in season 6, and Rigby, through this relationship with Eileen, is like becoming a better person. I mean, he's more focused, he's more driven, he's helpful, he's like considerate, which good things to have, but like, for the viewer it's a little bit surprising.
I mean, go back to the last episode that we put out on Wednesday that you and I were talking about, where we were discussing how Rigby only like starts to blossom then because he's kind of like a selfish narcissist at the beginning of the show, and then you were talking about that hot dog episode being your favorite because it shows his development of I can fix this, him trying as hard as he can to like help out the people that he's loyal to. I think that beginning plot, even in the back of the first season, was like an intentional like growth or development for what was going to start going on.
Yeah, so then, like with that in mind, obviously we like really you see this relationship blossoming, and then in the finale of season 6, couple things happen. Spoiler warning, Jesus, absolute spoiler warning. We see Mordecai basically self-destructing his relationship with the girl that he's into at the time, and in his anger he kind of lashes out at Rigby and is like, well, what the hell do you know about relationships? And that's when we get the reveal that the reason that Rigby and Eileen have been so chummy is that they've been dating since like the end of season 5 of regular show. Like,
yeah.
Like, they've just been, and he's so casual about it. He's like, yeah, dude, we've been dating for like 6 months. So then, the viewer kind of gets to find out at the same time Mordecai does, and then that sort of brings the plot of season 7 into focus, where Mordecai and Rigby kind of change places, where Mordecai almost becomes the background character, and Rigby becomes the main focus. His relationship with Eileen starts to take off. He goes back to school to graduate to better himself. And that's
not just to better himself either. It's both for himself and for the fact that he doesn't want to be someone that his friends not feel better than, but like that his friends perceive as like someone who doesn't try. It's like it's almost entirely motivated by Eileen at the very beginning, but as time went on, he realizes I want to better myself for me, for Eileen, for my brother, for Mordecai, right? Like Rigby like gets a better sense of like morals and values, not just from Eileen, but from like the show's experiences and his progression throughout.
Yeah, and it like, for me, honestly, like season 7, I think it is my favorite season of regular show, just because it's such a good payoff, getting to see Rigby just be successful, and it's not like it happens on a dime. Like, he earns it, like, So,
no, it's not like all of a sudden good things are happening to Rigby. It's you see a progression, episodes and episodes, if anything, really seasons long of him trying to better himself from what he was at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, and then it creates this really interesting dynamic, because then, as the viewer kind of realizes that Mordecai is being left behind, Mordecai himself realizes that he's being left behind, and it creates this really intriguing tension between the characters, because it's like you start to realize, because in the first episode when me and you started talking about cartoons, I kind of made the comment about, characters being static, and it starts to dawn on you that Mordecai really is a static character. Like, for the majority of the show, Mordecai kind of just doesn't change. He is still, ridiculously unsure of himself, is, still pulling Mordecai's with girls. And you see that, and then you see this whole huge change with Rigby, and it just becomes so apparent that it creates this friction, this big conflict between them that eventually gets resolved at the season 7 finale. Which then, culminates into the season 8 plot, which builds sort of in the background of season 7. And I personally think that season 8 jumps the shark. Like, even by regular show standards, I think that season 8 is a little bit, like, ridiculous.
Much.
Yeah. Like, they do a decent enough job of, like, making it make sense with the plot, because they do build it up in the background of season 7, but, season 8, even though I think the plot is a little bit ridiculous, I respect the merits of it, because it's very much like, okay, you watched these characters, you watched Mordecai and Rigby, for better or for worse, grow up for 7 seasons, in a relatively safe environment, in a very familiar environment. Like, you watched them grow up, now they're grown up, let's put them in fucking space. Like, the goal of the writers, I think, in that situation was like, okay, let's, now that they've matured and now that they've grown, we need to put them in a situation that is completely, like, unsafe, new, fish out of water. So they put them in space, and it's basically like, take all of this stuff that you've learned, and apply it, pretty much. To, like, to this big overarching conflict.
Adventure Time, very similar story, as you learn about deities and cosmic people and such, as time goes on throughout the show, right? Like, Glob Grob God Grod. Sorry, Glob Gob Grob God. That's his name. I hate it. 4G, right? As self-service shows up, right? You realize, oh, there's a lot at play here. And your first little taste of that happens with, first taste happens with the candy, like, gumball people, the Guardians, over at, when he breaks a royal promise. Then you get another taste, when he says, Astral Beast, come to me! And it's all the butterflies that help him float around after the Ice King freezes them. But then, the real big one is when the Ice King meets the Cosmic Owl.
Yeah.
And the Cosmic Owl is your first taste of, oh my god, there's, like, deities at this point. There's, like, genuine, like, insane stuff going on. And there's a few episodes of Adventure Time, I won't name them, because I want them to, like, surprise the viewer, that have almost nothing to do with Finn and Jake, that are super plot intensive, and they have no idea what's going on. For example, in the pilot that they sent to Nickelodeon that got rejected, they had a funny joke about Abraham Lincoln living on the moon. They bring that back in Adventure Time with Abraham Lincoln being on the moon. Like, as more than Abraham Lincoln, he is a deity, I mean, even to an extent, right? Like the Lich almost gives you this first sense of that. And I feel like I don't need to give a spoiler warning because these are in the first, like, 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, the way that Adventure Time goes about it, right, is they're like, okay, hear me out. We've done the wacky scenarios, but what if we, like, make you realize there's a reason for all of these wacky scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, wait, what? It's this awesome thing, and I think I love it almost the most out of anything about Adventure Time is the fact that it never really stopped developing plot. I mean, you find out there's a chance that you remember Susan, right?
Yeah.
So there's a chance, because Susan, they think she's a human and she has human friends, but they're all fish people, right? And so you're left to assume Susan is a fish person, but you aren't certain because she never takes off her hat until she shows up later in season 3, and then you're like, I wonder if Susan's a fish person. We haven't seen her breathe underwater, but she also hasn't taken off her hat until the end of the episode where Finn puts his hand under her hat because she, puts his hand there, and then he goes, ah! And you're left to assume, still nothing's confirmed, that she has no gills and that she's just a normal human. Later on, there's much more plot-intensive stuff involving Susan and how she's a human and just humans in general, right? And it's all pertinent to Finn.
Yeah.
But that's so essential. That's such essential information to the show, right?
Yeah.
And it's so nice to hear and experience that I can't feel like I'm doing it a good service to tell people about it because of how exciting it was to watch it happen. I mean, because you yourself said that you haven't seen Adventure Time in its entirety. You've only caught episodes here or there.
Yeah.
So part of this is me expressing to you that no, when you watch it, there's going to be things involving the human race or Finn's parents, right? That are really, really crazy. And they even come out of places that have been there since the first episode, right? Things that you just kind of take at face value end up being much deeper than they really seemed. Because the show is so good at, we're going to name everything that comes by, and it's going to outright be here's this thing, and you're just going to learn to accept, there's this thing. I should just get used to things like this showing up, right? And you get used to it, right? And you just kind of come to expect it. But then, when it gets called back to become important, that's when it gets crazy, and that's when you realize, there's a big story here. And that happens to things all the way back in season 1 throughout the remainder of all 10 seasons of the show,
Yeah.
I mean, while not particularly important, the snail that appears in every single episode, right? That snail
you did tell me
is
about
what,
that.
Yeah, it appears in every single episode. And that snail, same snail, did free the Lich, That's kind of a big deal. Other than that, right? Tree Trunks, right?
Yeah.
Season 1 Tree Trunks.
Yes.
Tree Trunks eats the crystal apple at the end of that episode and just poofs into non-existence. Speaking of, the actor for Tree Trunks died recently, a couple weeks ago, I think a month or so ago.
Who
Made me
played
very
him?
sad. But
Who played Tree Trunks?
I don't know her name, but she was 92, so I didn't feel bad about her life length. It just made me very sad because she plays such a sweet elephant.
Yeah.
But for the context of the show, for people who don't know, Tree Trunks is a small green elephant who really loves her apples, and she shows up at the beginning of the show, and she just poofs away. And then what you don't realize is Tree Trunks ends up being one of the most important figures in the show that you just kind of accepted as being there from episode 3, and you were like, okay, cool. Marceline, the vampire queen, same way. She's lived for 1,000 years, and in the same way that Skips has a bunch of stuff that we'll never know because he's like Gandalf, Marceline is the exact same way.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, but I think I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Maybe it'll come back to me. We'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot about Adventure Time that's really, really special, both to me and just about the show, right? Yeah. Not many things go on for 10 seasons on a major network, Not many cartoons go on for 10 seasons with a plot.
Yeah. How long are Adventure Time episodes? Are they 11 minutes or 22?
11 to 12. So you watch them on Hulu and there are no ads.
That's
the problem with Futurama, is that there's ads. Regular show also 11, 12 minutes, so there's no ads as well.
Yeah, no, regular show and Adventure Time, very good to binge because of the lack of ads, for sure.
And, I mean, I feel like we're talking about a lot less this episode compared to the last two, but that's because, the big thing with plot, right, is we want you to experience it for yourself because, we wouldn't have fallen in love with these shows if it wasn't for the like amazing progression and way that we feel while watching it, right?
Mhm.
Like Billy shows up in season 1, huge deal, and then everything that is talked about in the Billy song becomes important for the rest of the show.
Mhm.
You know, Billy has very similar parallels to Finn and Jake, and he also has 6 fingers with hands exactly the same size as the Gravity Falls book. Speculation, but like, just saying.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm stuck in a dialogue cutscene, but I think we are hitting about the 20-minute mark, so this is going to be nearing the end of the episode. I just wanted to say, before you give your parting words, Windows, thank you so much for coming on for this week. This has been a really, really fun 3 episodes to shoot with you. I've loved talking about cartoons with you. We've been meaning to do this for a long time, and I'm glad we finally got the chance to sit down and do it. I know, certainly, I know that Pugs will at least enjoy these videos, and I hope that everyone else did too, because, I hope it's as fun for you guys watching them as it is for us getting to make them. And I just wanted to say thank you again for thanks again for
these
coming
segments
on.
have been like my favorite.
I love them. I'm a big fan of this.
I also very much like cartoons. So like in the comments, throw out a cartoon you want us to talk about if we talk about cartoons again, if you want us to talk about cartoons. Yeah. You guys don't comment very often. Comment more.
Yeah, I know.
And tell us cartoon names. Just like throw in the end there. Throw in like an Ed, Ed and Eddie. Throw in like I want you to talk about Codename Kids Next Door, right?
Yeah, actually,
or even like newer stuff if you really want to. You could be like, talk about that Solar Opposites show. Or
straight up, if y'all start commenting more on videos, I will do comment shoutouts at the beginning of videos. So if you have a YouTube channel and you happen to watch these videos and you want a shout out, comment on don't comment that you want a shout out, but start leaving comments on the videos, and I'll put them in the beginning of the episodes, because I want more engagement.
We don't talk about comments very often because like they're all by the same people.
Yeah, you guys
myself included, because I'm a master commenter.
Yeah, you guys gotta leave more comments. All right,
Justin Y, I see you. Justin Y.
All right, well, I think next week we are going to be having a new guest on. I'm not going to spoil who it is because I don't actually know yet, but stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting. Thanks again for watching, and next time on Grump Games.
Next time on Grump Games.